F sharp, A sharp, revisited.
Hello everyone and welcome to F sharp A sharp Revisited, the music review podcast where me and Nick, we like to talk about music a little bit. 2018 is pretty much over and done with, so...
These are both things that are news to me. Wow. I did not know that.
We've got an award show planned. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah.
Who will win? Stay tuned to find out.
And who will not win and therefore end up in the gulag. Everyone who doesn't win is going in the gulag by virtue of not being good enough.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sorry.
We are being very, very harsh this year.
Yeah. I mean, we feel like James needs something to occupy his time as our evil genius gulag keeper who tries to take over the world. I think if he has his hands a bit full, he might not.
We need to throw him a bone. It stops the demon from coming out. So, yeah.
Anyway, let's get started. We're going to start with the genre awards. So this is the best album and best song from each genre of music as best as we could decide it between the two of us, because we're two similar but different people. Some of our ideas overlap. Sometimes we fight with knives to decide who wins.
Knives and fists. The guns is where we draw the line, but
so
everything else is fair game.
Lots of compromise here. But anyways, first off, let's start with best rock album.
Yes.
So we're going to do each one by doing the runners-up, of which we have 3, 4, 2, however many, and then we'll announce the winner. So first of all, the runners-up, and our first runner-up is Idols with their new album Joy as an Act of Resistance, which I found to be an album that capitalised on all of the best points of their debut while trimming away some of the fat, and it just provided some of the most exciting punk rock in recent memory. We've also got Car Seat Headrest, Twin Fantasy, which I love, in which singer-songwriter Will Toledo provides an incredibly welcome re-recording of his breakout record, which takes complete advantage of the resources he didn't have before, and it just improves on all fronts. It crafts an inventive epic of an indie rock album.
And another runner-up we have is Ling Tosite Sigure with Number 5, which I thought was just a pitch-perfect blend of their more abrasive post-hardcore sound and their pop sensibilities. I thought it was a fantastic record. But we do have a winner.
Drum roll, please.
We have You Won't Get What You Want by Daughters.
Oh man, this is a good album.
This is a very, very, very good album.
This is a very scary album.
It is very much a continuation from their previous sounds, but they kind of just capitalise on their use of dissonance, which I think is absolutely
it's
brilliant.
Pretty much unparalleled in at least any artist I can think working today.
Pretty much.
I mean, the only other band I can think of that comes close is the Paper Chase, but I'm not sure they've released an album for a while. But no, the use of dissonance in this album, the moods evoked from it.
Yeah, it's so angsty and tense, and it's great.
Yeah, and there's some real standout tracks on it as well. Yeah. I'd say there's a slight dip for me on the song Less Sex, but it's such a tiny dip. But otherwise, I think this album is
pretty great from start
to finish.
Start to finish. So yeah, very, very well deserved winner in my opinion.
Well done, Daughters.
Well done.
As for the others, get in the gulag. No, we're not being that mean. Let's move on to best rock song. So first runner-up we have Coheed and Cambria with their track Toys from their latest album, which, I mean, it ticks all of the boxes for a good Coheed and Cambria song. You got the fantastic riff, check. Stadium chorus, check. Killer guitar solo, check. Brilliant vocals. I do think that he's improving with every release. And a happy Nick, check.
Other runners-up we have Daughters again with the song The Reason They Hate Me, a song that uses, like we said, dissonance to create such a chaotic atmosphere.
I love the way it inverts the sort of 4/4 time as well. Like it is definitely in that time signature, but it's so hard to follow because of how the guitar pattern works. So
they overlap over each other, but yeah, fantastic song. And then we also have Time Fighter by Lucy Dacus, which it's a very slow, emotionally poignant track, but that just has fantastic guitar work. That it just does it for me. Does it for me. But our winner
is Jeff Rosenstock with the song USA, which is one of the very, very first songs released this year. In fact, I think it came out about 4 o'clock in the morning of New Year's Day. I mean, I think it's just maybe the best song of Jeff's solo career. It's I remember talking about it very positively when we talked about the album on the podcast. It's very well paced. It's one of his longer tracks, and the transitions between the section work incredibly well. And Jeff started on the album delving in a bit more into sort of ambient passages on some of his punk tracks, which I thought worked surprisingly well in a genre which they just
definitely
shouldn't.
really well here, because it very much starts off as a punk track, but then you get these keyboards coming in halfway through, but it doesn't really lose momentum. It very quickly builds and crescendos back up into the punk epic that it is.
The rallying ending is just remarkable.
Yeah, and also it has the lyric, "I fought the law, but the law was cheating." So
that is a great line.
Yeah. So moving on, we have the best hip-hop album.
Yes, and our first runner-up is Brockhampton with Iridescence, which, I mean, while the first 5 tracks on it are a little disappointing, I think the rest of the album more than makes up for it, with the boy band at their most creative and their most focused ever. We've also got Jean Grey and Kelly Chris, Everything's Fine, which you weren't quite as fond of as I was, but I mean, it's just got some of the most off-the-wall beats and delightfully odd flows of the year, and it's very unique, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, it did have some highlights that I did enjoy, so yeah. And also as a runner-up, we have Avondale Bowling Club with their self-titled release, and it's for creating an album which pretty much is very jazzy. It's very much straight jazz with rapping over the top, but the rapping is great throughout and the jazz is sweet as hell, so yeah. But we do have a winner. Our winner is Room 25 by No Name, which I really adored.
It features my favourite line of the entire year, I think, which is "My pussy wrote a thesis on colonialism." I love that line. Other than that, it's very good.
Great. I think it's easily the most consistent hip-hop release of the year. It's, for me, a start to finish listen.
Yeah. I did find that this year was a little lacking in the hip-hop area for me. But this was definitely one of the best.
Yeah, I mean, and it's quite varied as well. It's got more upbeat tracks like Montego Bay and Blaxploitation, but then a lot of lush, calm tracks as well, which we'll get into a bit later. Yeah. But for now, I just thought it was fantastic. The lyrics were great throughout, and a well-deserved winner.
And she has full control of her flow, which is a very quick fire. I don't know how she does it.
Yeah.
Moving on, best hip hop song.
Yes, so I'm putting forward as a runner-up Avondale Bowling Club with Pocket Lint. The use of the title imagery, I think, was used effectively throughout for just being broke. So that was great. And again, the jazz was sweet throughout. So yeah, great track.
Next up, as a runner-up, we have Brockhampton, 1998 Truman, which is incredibly exciting with, I think, some of the best performances from every member as a collective, and the transition in the middle into the fantastic Bareface is lovely. Also, an album we didn't talk about this year, Death Grips, from their new album, the track Ha Ha Ha, which I think is a standout track on a slightly underwhelming release. It's by far the most entertaining on the album, and it's got this strangely triumphant chorus, which I love.
Yeah, but we do have a winner though. Our winner is Window by No Name.
Yeah, I think if we do a drum roll through every single one, it will take forever.
It'll get a bit old quite quickly. But yeah, so Window, what is there to say about this track? I mean, firstly, the arrangement is bloody gorgeous. The keyboards that start it off are lovely, and then the lush, swooping orchestral arrangement that takes over the track partway in.
I think it's a very understated beat for the track, and I think it works brilliantly, bringing your attention to No Name's very gentle delivery.
Yeah, but her lyrics are amazing in that track as well. I love the kind of... They're very gentle and very introspective, and they're very romantic in as much as they really explore her inner thoughts in a way that really lets you know all the emotional nuance that she's feeling from this conflict between lust and love.
It's such a personal insight on an album which is already quite personal.
So yeah, I very, very much love this track. And Nick, you may roll your eyes at me saying this, but it does remind me of two of my favourite songwriters, Sheena Ringo and Björk, in the way you've got these lavish arrangements and such deeply introspective lyrics as well that
is high praise.
So I love.
Well, let's talk about the next genre, which is electronic. So we've got
Yes.
Best Electronic Album, and our first runner-up is Against All Logic with 2012 to 2017. I only listened to this quite late in the year. I missed it when it came out, and it's a stellar collection of tracks with versatile, playful, and creative usage of sampling throughout.
Another runner-up, we have Invaders by Hollywood Burns, and it's an album that embraces all of its cinematic cheesiness, and I think it's all the better for it because it creates a very bombastic, cinematic, slightly rock-influenced synthwave album that is just pretty entertaining.
It is a lot of fun.
Yeah. And then also we have as a runner-up Oil of Every Pearl's and Insides by Sophie. And it's a very diverse album and with a lot of original sounds which kept me engaged throughout.
But there can only be one winner, and that winner is John Hopkins with his album Singularity, which I still maintain is one of the most beautiful albums of the year.
Yeah.
It's very,
easily.
very sure-footed in its craft. It does require time to be put aside to it. It is an hour and 15 minutes long, and it doesn't really lend itself so much to single-track listens. But there's just these consistent pulses of humanity within each song. Everything feels entirely deliberate. Nothing is left to chance. It's kind of like a spiritualistic journey for me, and I love listening to it.
Yeah, one of my notes is just gorgeousness, because he has a way with harmony, he has a way with just slightly altering sounds as they go throughout in a way that feels completely organic, and despite it being so electronic, it feels so full of life at the same time. So very, very worthwhile winner, in my opinion.
Right, so let's move on to Best Electronic Song. So first up, from the album we were literally just talking about, first runner-up is John Hopkins' track Luminous Beings. This was by far my favourite track on the album. It is an utterly beautiful journey in a song. It morphs and evolves in the most natural way as you listen, and it's glorious.
Yeah, agreed. Another runner-up that we have is In Stillness by Ethelwood, a gorgeous, gorgeous IDM track that has just the most bustling drums and a beautiful orchestral arrangement to go with it. It is lovely. And another runner-up we have is Tightrope by Above and Beyond, which deserves a medal in its own right because it's an EDM track, a genre that I notoriously don't like, but it actually has good lyrics with a central piece of imagery that works throughout the song, and it's a banger. So yeah, great track.
But the winner of this category goes to Mr. Aphex Twin with his track T69 Collapse, which is, I mean, this was one of my favourite songs of the year. It didn't quite make the top 5, but it's a superb track by one of just the greatest electronic artists ever.
Yeah. One thing that stood out to me about this track is that unlike other Aphex Twin tracks, this one goes through more of a journey. I feel like there's more sections to this one, and it kind of does have a story to tell in its own instrumental way.
Yeah, at the point I was writing my notes for this, at this point my brain was absolutely fried. So I've got a friend who is the world's biggest Aphex Twin fan, and I asked him, can you just summarise why you think this track is so great? And he wrote quite a lot, so I'm just going to read it out. It flows so seamlessly, like you have no idea where it's going to go, but it all makes perfect sense when you get there. And to be able to blend that many sounds together in such an organic way is crazy impressive. It's also structured like a 3-act play, with each bit clearly communicating some kind of theme or emotion. It's so evident that no part of the song can exist without the other. It's a great dance track. It feels very modern and like a culmination of all of Richard's previous works, but somehow different. It's just a fantastic track. I love it. And I've got to mention the squelchy synths that come in at 155 in the track is my favourite tone of the year of any instrument.
Yeah, fantastic track, fantastic winner. But I also did a cover of one of the tracks that was a runner-up, which was Tightrope by Above and Beyond. Because while I was thinking, what song would I like to cover for this podcast, one of my favourite tracks, and I thought, this one would be easy, and I could do it in my usual alternative rock style as well. So I hope you enjoy.
I'm sure I will.
When you're running out of tightrope and there's empty sky below, where'd you go? Please, does anyone know? When you're running out of tightrope and the fear begins to grow, where'd you go? Please, does anyone know? Does anyone know? Does anyone know? Does anyone know? Please, does anyone know? And there's nothing left to show, where'd you go? Please, does anyone know? When you can't shut out the voices and your head's about to blow, where'd you go? Please, does anyone know? 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 Running out of tightrope and there's empty sky below, where'd you go? Please, does anyone
Wow, what a track, Joe.
Oh, thanks, Nick.
Yeah. I'm really glad you chose to do that song, which I just listened to just now for the first time. It was really good.
Thank you, Nick. And I think we should move on to our next category for award, which is Best Prog/Metal Album.
The first runner-up in this category is The Armed, with their album Only Love, and this is one which I only heard quite late in the year again, and while it's sometimes marred by some questionable production and mixing, I think overall it features some of the most insane and intense composition I've heard in a long time, and the way it uses electronics is amazing.
Yep. Yep, and next up we have Dornvishka by Koenji Hayake, for giving the genre of Zool a fresh lease on life with a quirky and creative offering. Another runner-up we have is Unsung Prophets and Dead Messiahs by Orphaned Land, for combining prog metal and traditional Israeli music in inventive and interesting ways.
The winner of this category is one of the few that we both agreed on as just being far and away the best of the year. So Necrogoblikon with their album Welcome to Bonkers. I was so happy you showed me this album, Joe, because it's I mean, the songwriting throughout is some of the most solid I've heard all year. It's so good.
It's so good, and it was a real surprise to me as well. I can't even remember how I came across the album, but I just remember seeing Goblin's metal, that's death metal. I am intrigued, and I was really not disappointed as well, because I think the use of because it uses so many different instruments in the album. You've got banjo, you've got harpsichord, a lot of keyboard as well. That's all used seamlessly to create tracks that are slightly dancey, a bit poppy, and then that are really intense as well. So
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic.
I think we'll probably come back to talk to this one a little bit more later. So
Yes.
let's move on to
Yes.
Best Prog/Metal Song. The first runner-up is, once again, The Armed, with the track from their album Heavily Lined. And it's a prime example of exactly what makes the album so great, making full use of electronics to add an unexpected flair. And I find that often in metal, the electronic elements are either way too overbearing or just completely lost. And here I think they just strike that balance really well.
Yeah, another runner-up, we have Orphan's Land again with In Propaganda, and I put this one forward because I felt like this track really made use of the Israeli instrumentation in a way to create a prog instrumental. There are vocals in this song, but the instrumentation is really what sells it. It is bold, it is fantastic.
And the final runner-up is Between the Buried and Me with their track Voice of Trespass. Now this is, I mean, it's just the best song I think the band have done in such a long time. It's fun, it's fast, and it really highlights the band's versatility as they go through a myriad of genres. But there can only be one winner.
There's only one winner, and it is The Magic Spider by Necrogoblicon. Oh. Because it starts off as not really a metal song, and then it is metal. It has a lot of metal and kind of prog elements in it, but it is so joyous.
I know, it's
at the same
one
time.
of the catchiest and happiest metal songs I think I've ever heard, and the use of 7/8 in it, 7/8 time, the do 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 rhythm, it's so catchy. It makes me want to dance.
It's so buoyant, and you just want to sing along to it.
And I love the ending as it sort of fades out.
Yeah.
And then just comes straight back in at full volume.
Yeah, well, that's one of my favourite key changes in music, because it's almost like a bait and switch at the same time.
Yeah.
It's just so funny. It's a lovely little kind of detour on the album.
No, it's a highlight among many, I think. There are
Yeah.
so many great tracks on that album.
Yeah, so I'm very happy with that winner. So, moving on, we have Best Jazz/Modern Classical Album.
Also known as the Joe Award.
The genres that I take command of. But yes, we have our first runner-up, which is Communion by Park Ji-hye. Now, this album was released in 2016, but was only made available outside of Korea in 2018, so I thought, now's a good enough year. It's a good enough reason to put it on. But I was enchanted by this album when I heard it, because it has the most unique blend of classical oriental music, jazz, and post-minimalism that I guess I just hadn't heard before. It's such a unique atmosphere, and the performances are constantly rich and engaging. And, well, yeah, I can honestly say I haven't heard another album like it, so I was really impressed.
Well, my first runner-up is Sons of Kemet with their album Your Queen is a Reptile. And I think while it doesn't really push the boat out as far as originality or new ideas go, it's a really fun and groovy release with some fantastic percussive and brass elements as well as some pretty good vocal spots. And the final runner-up is Natalia Lafourcade with her album Musas Volume 2. It's just quite simply a really lovely album from a genre of music I very rarely listen to, being sort of Latin influenced, and the vocal work on it is so endearing.
I have to agree, but we do have a winner, and that is Poppy Ackroyd with Resolve. And it's a post-minimalism album, which you often don't always have a lot to say about, but it's beautiful. It's very beautiful. Her use of instrumentation, textures. She is a pianist, so there is a lot of piano in this album, but there are a lot of other instruments as well, and the way she morphs her music around crafting these soundscapes that are just beautiful. I keep using that word, but that's very much how this album operates.
It's so calming for me, the tranquility of the album, and it's able to provoke such fantastic imagery in my head as I listen to it. Like I can feel myself somewhere else being transported by this album. It's one of my highlights of the year, actually.
Yeah, I really liked it. I mean, the only reason Poppy Ackroyd was on my radar was because she was part of Hidden Orchestra, who were my number 4 album of last year, and so she's gone ahead and done it again, and made a big impression on me again. So well done to Poppy.
Well done to Poppy. Well, let's talk about the best songs from the jazz slash modern classical genre. So,
Yes.
first runner up is actually Poppy Ackroyd again with track "The Dream," and this was the one from the album which I think just affected me the most. Probably the most relaxed I've felt all year while listening to music. It's
Yeah.
just ethereal and gorgeous.
Yeah. Lovely track. We also have Once You by Jacob Collier. Is that how you say his name?
I think it's pronounced Jacob.
Jacob Jacob Collier. This is a modern classical piece that is very slow, very lush, very balladly, and he's not afraid to be incredibly moving and very deliberate with the rhythms, and it allows for so much expressiveness within the piece that I loved.
It's like a modern day crooner of an of a song. I think it's gorgeous. And the final runner up that we have is Mouse on the Keys with the track Time. Now, I found this album to be slightly disappointing, to be honest, considering how strong some of their previous output has been. But I think this song in particular is just, it combines all of the great qualities you would expect from such a terrifically talented band, and the guitar solo in it from Chong guitarist Mario Camarena, I think is not something I expected, but works incredibly well in the track.
Yeah, yeah, great track. But we do have a winner, and that is The Space Traveler's Lullaby by Kamasi Washington.
It's another album I was a little bit about.
He could have made it one album, and because it was a double album, Heaven and Earth, but he could have cut it into one album and had a fantastic release. But
yeah, it's not like the Epic where I found all three parts of it to be equally great.
Equally great. But listen, but this track though, this track is pure gorgeousness to me. Which is kind of interesting because unlike many of the other tracks on this album, it doesn't necessarily have like one key solo or many kind of solos, but it's very much an interface of these gorgeous orchestral swells and then jazzy moments that kind of like DNA spiraling around each other, that it feels very relaxing, and I can kind of feel the evocation of a space traveler's lullaby. It is a bit like floating through like a cartoony space world in my I mean, that's what it evokes for me.
Yeah, it's just a glorious sprawling epic with the classic virtuoso composition you would expect from the man.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah, it's fantastic.
Right, this is where the guns come out. Best alternative album. Now, this was where we had a lot of clashing.
Yeah, we all put albums and songs forward, and we like didn't agree, apart from like maybe once. But yeah.
Yeah. So let's start up with the runners up as always. First runner up for this category is Offerings by Typhoon, which to me is just one of the most emotional albums of the year, with great performances and a fantastic amount of subtlety in the composition to unwrap.
Yeah. Another runner-up was Anna von Hauswolf with Dead Magic for creating a neoclassical darkwave album that's just brimming with emotion and atmosphere and darkness, and I love it.
Third runner-up is Milo, I don't know how to pronounce this, so sorry if you're listening, which you're probably not, Milo Dunn. Or
I'd go with that.
Milo Dunn with his album Incongruity, is his debut from the terrific singer-songwriter slash emo artist who's got a clear talent, featuring some of the best guitar work and lyrics I can think of in the genre.
Yes, but we do have a winner. We did manage to agree on something.
This is the one we agreed on.
Yes, we have Bark Your Head Off Dog by Hopalong. And it's funny because when I wrote my notes for this album, I don't actually have a whole lot to say about it other than it's great. I mean, the compositions are consistently going, just above the parapet to remain interesting. The lyrics are pretty good throughout as well.
The thing that I love most about Hop Along is Francis Crinland's voice. I think it's one of the best voices to come out of music. It's so unremarkable yet completely outstanding in equal measure, and her vocal melodies and performance are never below stellar. I love the way that the band uses discords and intertwining melodies throughout. I think they're great.
Yeah,
and you should listen to this album.
They're the kind of band that they just feel relatable.
Yeah,
in that way. So yeah, deserving winner, I think.
Yeah. So let's move on to Best Alternative Song. Joe, you can start this off.
Yes, first runner-up is The Man Who Married a Robot / Love Theme by the 1975. And yes, I do mean it. I bloody love this track. It succeeds in being both experimental, humorous, but also tragic. And that's kind of what makes it so bittersweet for me. And yeah. I love it. It's all of those things all in one. And then I seem to be nominating a lot of things that have great orchestral arrangements, and that's no.
I mean, it does.
It does. It's a great orchestral arrangement at the end. So yeah, great track.
Well, let's move on to the next one. Typhoon with their track Remember. I think it's just a real highlight of all of their strengths on the album. It's got brilliant lyrics, loads of great ideas in there, fantastic pacing. I think it's got one of the best endings to a song of the entire year.
And then we also have Rusty Pipes by Eels, for having what I think is one of the most interesting uses of songwriting this year, by creating an auditory metaphor for feelings of obsoleteness through the instrumentation and the composition. I thought it was great.
Sounds rusty.
Very rusty.
But the winner is Ben Howard with his lead single from his new, well, I say new, this year's album, A Boat to an Island on the Wall. I completely didn't realise this track was going to be as important to me as it ended up being, because I said when we did the album, it'll probably grow on me with more listens, and then I didn't listen to it, and then I went back to listen to it one more time at the end of the year and forgot that this track is just amazing.
Oh, this track is great. It starts off with those kind of wailing synth things.
Yeah.
And then it eases you into like the guitar notes that come in. The synths remain kind of ominously present throughout.
There's a lot of ambient sound throughout the track that keeps it just feeling serene.
Yeah.
Full of this indescribable beauty, and Ben Howard's vocals flow like melted chocolate.
Yeah.
And it's another one which just gives me imagery, and I can just picture myself in a different place while I listen to it. And then that ending climax, as the drums come in, the guitar tone on that guitar solo is unreal. It just sounds amazing.
Yeah, I can only agree with you there. It's a great track. Very, very deserved winner.
So now we go on to the generally overlooked on our podcast genre of pop music. Because, pop doesn't have all that many great connotations with its name, but
yeah,
there were some great albums from the pop genre this album. So
yeah, definitely. First up, we have Think Peace by Clarence Clarity. For creating a sci-fi epic of a pop album, I would say, filled with fantastic hooks, spacey synths, and upbeatness for years on end. So yeah, great pop album.
Then the other end of the spectrum of pop music, the next runner-up is Beach House with their album 7, which is, they've done quite well to reinvent themselves, I think. They've always been sort of dreamy, but this is dream pop with an edge, and it's so deep that you might drown in it.
Yeah.
Final runner-up, though, Let's Eat Grandma with the album I'm All Ears, which is a deliberately complex but thoughtfully designed album of pop music, which, while not entirely consistent to my mind, has such a large number of high points on it. Tracks like Hot Pink, for example, good.
And then Donnie Darko, a long track but still catchy and great at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, worthwhile runner-up. But we do have a winner, which is Haru Tosura by Haru Nemuri, which was an album I was completely enamoured by this year. She's very, very quickly, for a debut artist, crafted for herself a very unique voice within the J-pop sphere, with her mixture of understated hooks and very, very fast-paced spoken word that she just has a mastery of, which I think is fantastic. Compositionally, every track is satisfying and uses both pop and noise and electronic.
I love the focus on texture rather than melody throughout the album. Well, the melody that is present on the album, I mean, it's used kind of sparingly, but it works fantastically. But I love the really punchy drums with the crisp guitars to make those textures stand out, along with Haru's vocals.
Yeah. And like I mentioned when we reviewed it, once I kind of got more into the lyrics, well, I did read the translation, but the more I looked into them, the more I realised they were great as well. They talk about nihilism and the search for meaning, and it really works well with the angsty atmosphere of the album as well. So I think I'm really pleased that we could put this as best pop album of the year.
Well, let's look at some of the best pop songs of the year.
Yes, definitely. First runner-up, we have Clarence Clarity again with Naysayer Magic Obeyer.
Ooh, girl, you make me feel like you fucking everyone. So make me feel like I make you feel good.
Oh, it's such a great hook.
Best hook of the year.
Best hook of the year. And then it reprises another best hook of the year.
The sins of our fathers,
they start to add up. It's great. And the synths, the drums, everything is well arranged. It's a great pop track. And then also we have nominated Haruna Muri.
Pronounce it, Joe. Go on, pronounce it.
Sakai Watari Kaish Deo Kure.
Nice.
Go on. Pronounce it, Nick.
No, this is why I left you to choose this one.
Yeah, but what can I say? It's the best of her album. You've got this hurricane delivery with her final verse that is just so phenomenal. That's kind of like the absolute highlight of the album, but it just combines all the things that make the album great. Pop sensibilities, the noise sensibilities. It's got fantastic lyrics as well if you're able to look into the translation and what it means.
Well, I would say that the final runner-up of this year actually comes from the 1975 as well. Really surprising for me, their single Love It If We Made It, which is an urgent, impactful, emotionally fueled outburst of conviction in the form of one hell of a catchy track. I adore this song.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those ones where I think it completely wins you over just by just the performance. I think Matt Healy's vocal performance on this song is by far the best on the album. There's only one winner, as we all know at this point, and that winner is Janelle Monáe with the track Make Me Feel. Oh, I love this track so much. Oh, it's just the perfect pop song. It's one of the catchiest tracks of the year to begin with.
Yeah.
I love the composition of it. Especially the brilliant use of descending guitar and vocal lines, especially in the pre-chorus with the twins.
The semitonal one is great.
Yeah, and the twin snare hits going with the guitar as it goes down, and Janelle Monáe's vocals in it just sound so...
They're on peak.
Sexy.
Yeah. Really
sexy vocals, and the lyrics just feel really liberating, and it's above all else, it's a really fun track.
It's a fun time, and sometimes that's exactly what we need.
That's all the genre's done.
Yeah, our genre awards. But now it's time to take a different approach.
Yes, we're going to best pick
kind of
awards.
Best picks, a bit more, not so much an award, but kind of like, these are things that we want to highlight.
Yeah.
And our first section is actually best music videos, because we don't talk about music videos.
No, I think we've done that once in the entirety of our podcast history.
Yeah.
So we've done this in chronological order.
Yes. We've agreed which ones we want to put forward, and we'll go through the year. The first one dropped on the 1st of April. Can anyone guess what it is yet? You've had 3 seconds. It is... It is Crab Rave by Noisestorm, and this video is... I love it to pieces. Nick is shaking his head.
This video killed me. I knew what was going... From the title, Crab Rave, I knew exactly what this video was going to be, and I still wasn't prepared for it.
It is so funny.
I watched it and I sent the link to my sister, and she sent me a message back saying, "Please, can you not?"
Well, imagine this. Imagine a beach full of CGI crabs raving.
Like really uncanny valley CGI crabs that just look slightly wrong, just, bopping and raving.
But that's what makes it so hypnotising.
It is a work of art.
It's a work of art. It has become a bit of a meme in itself. Yeah, I thought it was a fantastic video. But yeah, up next we have another fantastic video. This is my personal favourite music video of the year, released on the 10th of April again, and that is Kimi no Mikata by Kyari Pamyu Pamyu. And this is probably the video I've watched the most throughout the entire year.
It's beautiful. It just
brings
so charming.
It brings such a huge smile to my face.
Kyary
every single time.
Pamyu proves herself to be the greatest dancer in the world on this track. Not by skill or technical ability, but just by how much she's enjoying it as she does it.
It's so funny, and kind of to explain the video, it has like this kind of orange peach palette throughout in this background, but then you've got these humans dressed up as things.
That's a good way to describe it.
That they each hold like 2 tablets which have screens on, but they use them so creatively in amongst the dance moves. You've got one of my favourite moments in the video is when they put the 2 tablets over their eyes and there's eyes on the tablets, and then it makes a face, and then they bring the eyes round it and it makes this kind of goofy face that is just so charming.
It must have taken such a long time to pull that video off as well. It's all done in, I mean, it's designed to make it look as if it's done in one take. It could have been done in one take for all I know, because I didn't find any obvious cuts in it.
Yeah, neither did I. But then one thing I really like about it is that, I mean, Kyary Pamyu, it has this kind of like goofy, not quite precise kind of way about it to make it look kind of childish and charming. But then when you look at some of the actual things that take absolute precision, like they're absolutely precise. There's this one bit where like she kicks a kick drum and the kick drum finishes off coming out through the tablet and back again. It is absolutely precise. Absolutely precise, and I was just like, that is amazing. So I thought it was amazingly put together, and I love it.
Well, let's move on to another video which probably took quite a lot of work to pull off, and this is probably a lot of people's picks for best music video of the year. Childish Gambino with This Is America. I mean, it became a viral sensation for a reason. I think it's. I mean, I'm sure you've all seen it already. If you haven't, it's just Donald Glover dancing through scenes of carnage, really, I guess. It starts with him executing a man playing guitar, then dancing while there's a riot going on in the background. Then he dances onto the screen and kills a choir, and it doesn't do it justice for me to describe it to you, really, but it's all designed to look as if it's done in one take, with the dancing he's doing distracting you from the clear terror that's going on behind. Someone jumps off a balcony at one point and lands on a car. And I found the ending to be a little strange as far as the song goes, but I mean, I've got to give it credit for how much effort it probably took to pull off.
I think when we did review it, I did have some 1 or 2 kind of direction nitpicks, but to be honest, that's kind of me being a curmudgeon, because what it does fantastically. It is very poignant, and it deserves pretty much all the praise it gets, really.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to a track which, my God, it's the most trash I've heard all year, but it's so clearly aware that it is trash that I can't fault it, and in fact I kind of find it admirable how, I mean, it's Kanye West and Little Pump. I love it. Another viral sensation, and God, Lord Almighty, this video just makes me laugh so much.
Don't bother with the song, just watch the video.
I mean, the song as well makes me laugh because it's also probably aware that it's just trash. I mean, not as much as the video with them in those huge square suits walking after a giant woman. The bit where she turns around and Kanye West does that little "wasn't me" face. It makes me laugh so much.
I mean, he does several facial expressions throughout that are they're just comical. It's funny. It's a short one. I think it's just 2 minutes really, but it's funny. It's worth a laugh.
And the final track that was released this year, this one was on the 12th of September. Joji, Slow Dancing in the Dark. I love this video for the reason I love the song, which is that it is ridiculously melodramatic. The song in itself has got all of the cliches you would expect in a ballad, the really over-the-top vocals, the sort of moany voice. But in the video, it's him in the dark, looking absolutely forlorn. Then he gets shot by an arrow. He starts bleeding everywhere. He grows goat legs. He screams to the sky. It's ridiculous, and I love it.
It's bizarre. It's completely bizarre, but that's the appeal.
Let's move on to something else we don't talk about very much. Best album artwork of 2018.
Yes.
This was a category that was devised by Joe.
Yes, I had several that I thought, yeah, why not? I think I'll give a shout out to them for this. Shall I go first or shall you go first?
How
'Cause
about we alternate?
yeah, okay, yeah. So I'll go in with my number three pick, which was Doron by Koenji Hayake. An album I mentioned previously for being a fantastic Zool album, but the artwork is just lovely.
It's a mountain in it.
It's a mountain, and then you've got the cherry blossom trees, and the artwork is very much classical Japanese artwork, and it's very nice. It's very serene. It's very graceful.
It makes you feel good to look at it.
Yeah.
Unlike my pick for third place, which is Daughters, You Won't Get What You Want, and the album cover I find as unnerving as the album sounds. It forms the uncanny by making the recognisable unrecognisable with this smeared painted face with these hollow eyes. It's terrifying.
It's terrifying, but it makes for great album artwork. I mean, it tells you what the album is like. This is what you will feel like listening to this album. So yeah, fantastic artwork. My second place pick is Idris Ackamore and the Pyramids with their album An Angel Fell.
This one is beautiful.
This artwork is, I mean, it simply is beautiful because you've got this black angel looking across this deep dark blue scene, and there's this red hurricane in the background, and she's on orange rocks, and just the color palette is gorgeous. It's just gorgeous. Yeah, there's not much more to say about it other than it's gorgeous.
I'm going for my second place pick, and this is one that no one at all agrees with me on, which is actually Brockhampton's Iridescence cover. The picture of the pregnant lady done in all sorts of hues of colour. So it's I don't know what the effect is called.
It's like thermal.
Yeah.
What you call it?
Thermal imagery.
Yeah.
Nobody likes this album cover except me. Everyone thinks it's crap, and I think it just looks funky and leaves me with all manners of intrigue.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, my number one pick is There Is No Elsewhere by Haiku Salu, and it's one of my favourite types of album covers. It's the visual metaphor that leaves me thinking and wanting more, because you've got this desolate black and white destroyed village, and then within that you've got this kind of circle that has this kind of village before it was occupied by humans, supposedly. Like, I'm reading into this. This is how good the artwork is. You read so much into it. And it's in colour, and it's beautiful. It's pastel. It's serene. And it kind of makes you think, with the title being There Is No Elsewhere, you're kind of being given a window into an alternative reality or an alternative timeline or something like that, which kind of makes you think, well, why is this one way and why is it the other? And it's great to look at the same time. So that was why it's my number one pick. I thought it was a fantastic album cover.
Yeah, the juxtaposition in that album cover is very well done, unlike other albums, which we might talk about later.
We'll see.
So my top pick is actually a bit of a cheat because it's kind of two. So band Me Without You released an EP and an LP this year, both called Untitled. And the EP was a sort of calmer collection of works, sort of a calm before the storm-like thing. And the album cover was a series of lines and colours all wrapped up into a ball, sort of very contained. And then the LP, which was probably their most angry and aggressive they've been for a long time, was that ball just completely spread out as if it had exploded. Yeah. And I thought that was such an apt description of the albums and how they sounded that I've got to admire it.
Yeah, it's a great mission statement. It tells you what's going to happen.
Yeah. So we've got to the moment you've all been waiting for. We've got our 3 big categories.
Yes.
So let's start off with best songs of the year.
Best songs. Do you want to go first?
I'm happy to go first. We will alternate. So, my 5th place pick for best song of the year is Milo Dunn with his track Part 2, The Reason I'm Grateful. And I discovered this one, I was on the Facebook group Midwest Emo Posting, and this guy actually posted a video of him playing this track. And most of the time when people post themselves playing tracks on there, I listen for a little bit and think, it sounds like all the other ones, twinkly guitars and all that. But there was just something about this one that I really, really liked. It's equal parts wonderful guitar playing and emotional vocal performance, and both complement each other beautifully. From the album, which is filled with so much doubt, it's a surprisingly uplifting track about confidence, and I think Milo delivers his best vocal performance here, switching between emotional vulnerability on lines such as now I can bear the sight of his face as he looks in your eyes the same way I did, and I can tell you're happy. God, you look so happy. And then pure passion later on lines like your heart of gold deserves everything you know. And that's sung while he's playing these quite complex plucking patterns on his guitar with use of harmonics. It sounds brilliant.
Yeah. that was a fantastic speech, Nick.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to my fifth place pick. It's a song we've already talked about, The Reason They Hate Me by Daughters. I love the dissonance in this song. I keep talking about their use of dissonance. It's fantastic. I love the just completely chaotic, frantic energy of the song. And it isn't going too heavy and just relying too much on the heaviness of the track. It's relying on the build. It's relying on the guitars clashing against each other. It's relying on the lyrics. Don't tell me how to do my job. That's just, it's lovely. Well, lovely is not the right word. No,
it's not lovely.
It's anti-lovely, and that's why it's lovely.
Yeah.
So that's my number 5 pick.
I'm going to move on to my number 4 pick. One we've mentioned briefly before. It is Remember by Typhoon. I mean, it's like I said before, it's a grand performance from Typhoon, taking all of their previously proven abilities to craft exceptional indie rock and putting them into one track. I think it's paced really well. The transitions between sections never feel out of place. Like the almost triumphant guitar line that follows the first chorus as a sort of bridge between the two doesn't feel out of place at all. The lyrics on the track are insanely good. I took some here. I'm going to read them out. I come home and the door is hanging open. The smoke alarm is howling. The bathroom mirror is broken. Find you standing in the backyard pouring gas on the bonfire, ass naked in the middle of December. The shame you don't recall with the clothes you don't remember in flames, tearing pages of notebooks in the embers, your makeshift funeral pyre. I mean, I dream of being able to write lyrics that are that visual.
And that's scary.
That's scary. And like I said, I think the ending is one of the best endings to a track all year, as the vocals become completely indistinguishable from the howling guitars. I love it.
Yeah, fantastic track. My number 4 pick, though, is Tom by Ed Schrader's Music Beat. And this track is actually about Schrader's complicated relationship with his stepfather, Tom, which I actually didn't realise when we first reviewed the album. And so the lyrics that didn't really make any sense to me at the time suddenly made perfect sense as you realise it's kind of supposed to be seen through the eyes of a child. And what I love about this track, everything about it oozes coldness and confusion and distance, and it leaves me feeling very much this kind of emptiness inside that I'm sure Schrader is feeling as he's giving one of his best vocal performances on the album. The piano is both cold, it's glacial, but it's also bustling as well, and I think that's just such a perfect metaphor for how one must be feeling in that situation. And then of course there's an orchestral arrangement in it. Well, it's a string arrangement that comes in part way through that kind of takes over, and it's such an interesting piece of music because it feels like the strings are taking over, but they're tremolo. They're kind of spreading themselves all over the dynamics of the song, which it gives this feeling of something taking over before it goes back into the piano and finishes the song. For me, it was an incredibly engaging piece of music, and I love it.
So my third place is one we've already talked about kind of in depth because it was the top pick of our alternative songs, and that is Ben Howard's A Boat to an Island on the Wall. And I mean, I've already mentioned it, his vocals like Melted Chocolate and all that. I mean, all I can say that we haven't said already is I think that the sense of atmosphere in that song is just unlike any other I've heard this year, using actual sounds of bustling crowds and the sort of weeping synths. I mean, the only other artist I can think that comes close this year is John Hopkins, and his whole album revolves around a sense of atmosphere, whereas this is just one song on his album, which I think just captures it as well.
Definitely. So my number 3 pick is Rusty Pipes by Eels. And I just think this song is genius from a songwriting perspective. The arrangement it uses these like a woodwind arrangement paired against this somber, soft synth vocalese as well. And so when you get Mark Everett's voice, it's noticeably hoarse over the softer arrangements. And what that does is it vocalizes himself as the Rusty Pipes. And so when he's going through these lyrics that about obsoleteness, you kind of realize he's singing about himself, and they become very devastating as I listen to, and very relatable as well. So yeah, take that as you will. But I thought it was fantastic, and the arrangement itself is very interesting. The use of harmonies and this kind of dual texture between the synth and the woodwind is very nice as well. So I thought it was a fantastic track.
Well, my next track is an interesting one, because in my original top 5, I hadn't even considered this one. In fact, I spent a good half an hour debating whether to put T69 Collapse by Aphex Twin or Tonya by Brockhampton as the number 5 pick. But actually, I decided that the reason I hadn't thought about this song at all is because it's a comedy song from a comedy album, and I don't think that should stop it from being in my top 5, because Danny Don't You Know by Ninja Sex Party, I mean, no other song this year has made me feel as empowered as this one. It is amazing that a band that first and foremost makes songs about boning could make a song this incredible. It's one of the best ballads I can think of, up there with Purple Rain. That's high praise. Danny's vocals on this track are the best they've ever been. I love the little guitar flourishes in the verse, and the second half of the song could make me cry with how goddamn awesome it is. I mean, it sports one of the best guitar solos I've ever heard. I don't generally like tapping in guitar solos all that much, but I think it works really well here. And the journey of the song from, you send birthday invites and now all your friend is here, to DANNY, he cries almost all the time, to Danny, don't you know that we're all right as fuck on the inside? Now it's time to rock the show. Come on, you are a star tonight. And the way that everything drops out as he says, come on, you are a star tonight, is one of my favourite moments of the year.
Yeah.
It gives me tingles every time I listen to it. It's such a beautiful song.
Yeah.
It's tailor-made for people like me and you, to be fair. So
nerds like us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something tells me it's not going to be the last time we'll be talking about this podcast. So I'll save my thoughts to a bit later on, because my second place pick for song of the year goes to The Man Who Married a Robot/Love Theme by the 1975.
Yeah, guys, he really does like it that much.
Yeah,
it is a good track. I've decided, since our review of the album and me saying I'm not sure, I've decided no, I do like this track.
Yeah, because I think they're very much aware of what they're going for, and I mean, I already summarised it pretty briefly, but I said everything I wanted to say about it. I mean, the spoken word, the computerized spoken word story of a man in love with the internet. It is tragic and it's funny, and it's tragic and it's funny. It's tragic and it's funny. And yeah, and it does make me feel something inside. It definitely does. And it's a beautiful instrumentation as well. So yeah, definitely love that track.
Well, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. Our favourite songs of 2018. And my favourite song of 2018 is... You're going to have to wait for it, because Joe has covered a song already on this podcast and I haven't. And I'm going to put mine in now, so you have to wait. So the track that I chose didn't actually make it into any of the categories here at all. But I did really like it. It's from False Light's album Harmonograph that came out earlier this year, and it's the track William Glenn. And I thought, this will be an easy one to cover. Just 2 instruments, that's cool. So I'm going to play it for you now, and I hope you will enjoy it. Saw the ship and a ship of fame, launched off the stocks bound to sail the main. 150 brisk young men, well picked and chosen everyone. And William Glenn was the captain's name. He was a fine and a tall young man, as fine a sailor as sailed the sea, and we were bound for the new country. 1st of April we set sail, blessed with a fine and a prosperous gale, well rigged, well manned and fit for sea, with all of our whole ship's company. We ain't been sailing a league or two, till all of our whole ship's jovial crew, they all fell sick save 63, as we were sailing to the new country. That night our captain had a dream. A voice came to him upon the wind, prepare yourself and your company, for tomorrow night you will lie with me. Our captain woke in a shivering fright, it being the 3rd watch of the night, and loud for the boatswain he did call, and to him told his secrets all. For I have murdered, it is true, I killed a wife and a children too, and on a servant I laid the blame, and now we all must bear my shame. And it's of his ghost that I am afraid, that's come this night my life to take. So keep the secret within your breast, and pray to the Lord that he'll give you rest. The winds they blew, the storm did rise, which did our sailors much surprise. Seaports full, but far enough, till scarcely one man on board was left. This old boatswain, he did declare that our captain was a murderer, which did so enrage our whole ship's crew. And overboard they our captain threw, our cruel captain, him being gone. Immediately there came a calm, the winds abated and so did the sea, and we sailed safely to the new country. I hope you liked that.
It was amazing.
Thank you, Joe.
Fantastic. Now we can get on to the number 1 songs of the year.
No more dilly-dallying. My number 1 song of this year is Bodies by Car Seat Headrest, and in the same way that no other song this year has made me feel as empowered as Ninja Sex Party Daddy Don't You Know, no other song this year has made me feel so incredibly happy to be alive as this one has. I don't know where to start. The lyrics, I guess, twin perfectly with the song's tone about youth, uncertainty, and ultimately just not giving a fuck about life because it's what you do rather than what you don't that matters. And I think the chorus is just undoubtedly one of the best things ever in my mind. I love the awkwardness of those are, you've got some nice shoulders. I'd like to put my hands around them. I mean, I can relate with that so much.
It's a very romantic song.
But it's so awkward, and I love it. And the use of humour in the lyrics, it just like it's so self-aware and self-referential. Like at the beginning when he gets past the verse, and he goes, "Is it the chorus yet?" No, it's just the build to another verse, so that when the chorus does come, it'll be more rewarding. I love that. It makes me laugh. And the bit where he's going, "So what? We're young, we're thin. I mean, most of us, and we're alive. Well, most of us." Will Toledo is never afraid to just try something. It doesn't matter what it is, he'll just throw it into a song. And I love the fact that he's able to make it work most of the time.
Yeah, it's a fantastic track. My number one pick, though, is another track we've given an award to, and that was Window by No Name. Best hip-hop track of the year, and for me, track of the year, full stop. It probably comes as no surprise, to be honest. And I just find this track nothing short of gorgeous, from the lullaby synths to the orchestral arrangement, the understated beats. No Name's fantastic introspective lyrics, this theme of lust versus love that is explored in depth and through very much her own perspective, where we see a lot of insight. I just think it's a fantastic track. I love it.
That's the song's done, but we've got 2 more huge categories to come yet. It's not over yet, Joe. Let's move on. Before we do best albums of the year, let's take a slight detour to our best moments of 2018, which was definitely the hardest category for me to pick.
Yes.
I mean, it was until I saw your picks, and then I just went, actually, no, Joe's right.
Okay. I mean, we do have different ones for third place.
Yeah,
so,
well, I'd just like to mention my third place took a lot of deciding, because I do want to shout out Ugly and Vengeful by Anna von Hauswolf. The bit towards the end where that really eerie organ. Yeah, oh god, that is amazing. But no, my pick for third best of the year is Wait by Brockhampton, because the introduction of the drums in that track after Kevin Abstract's verse and the chopped vocals that go underneath it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
That's what I aspire to be able to produce.
Yeah, it's a very sonically pleasing moment.
Yeah, I love it. And then it goes straight into Joba going, "'Cause we're born with a dollar sign attached to our temple." And it's great.
Yeah, very much so. My my third place is a track that Nick didn't like very much.
I mean, it did grow on me a little bit once I stopped taking it seriously at all. But I mean, it's got 2 bass lines. Why has it got 2 bass lines, Joe?
Because 2 bass lines is better than 1.
Not always.
So this is Filthy by Justin Timberlake, and the song is a bit of a I mean, it is a bit of a funny song. I'll give it that, but it's entertaining at the same time. But for me, it's when those synths come in at about 3:25 in the song. They are so damn satisfying. They're slightly glitchy and choppy, but they go over the rest of the arrangement so well. And that entire minute at the end of the song does it for me. Does it for me so much.
Well, I'll talk about my second place one now, which is also Joe's second place one.
Yes.
So my second place moment of the year is Tanny Don't You Know, from 2:45 until the end of the song, with the guitar solo, the final chorus, the chanting.
It just has such a great moment. You've got the end of the second chorus, that bridge, given what they came for, into the damn good guitar solo. And like you say, the chanting, it has so much momentum. It's like bang, bang, bang. This is the climax. Yeah. This is what you came here for.
And I mean, I already mentioned it, but if I had to pick one moment from that entire second part of the song, it's got to be when everything cuts out and Danny just shouts, "Come on, you are a star tonight." It gets me every single time.
It is absolute magic. Unquestionable.
Do you want to announce the number 1 spot, though?
The number 1 spot is Typhoon with Sleep. So Sleep was my favourite song on Offerings, Typhoon's album this year. And quite specifically, this moment has made me cry multiple times. So yeah, I'm a crybaby. I admit it. So in an earlier song, it's mentioned that this person with dementia is going to walk into a room of singing voices and he won't know who anyone is, and that basically happens on this track.
Yeah, at the end of Sleep, leading into the sort of hidden track, which I think is called After Party, everything cuts out, and all you can hear is sort of ambient sounds and sort of the sound of footsteps walking through what sounds like snow to me, and kind of wind. And then you start to hear these voices just sort of building up, and then the sound of a door opening, and this huge cheer leading into them all singing in this sort of raucous chorus, and it's like it sounded like a pub.
Yeah.
They just sing out of time and out of place from the mortal call deliver to the great expanse found in space between celestial fissures, where the sick or soft of mind, where they're hardly disfigured, you shed your clothes, you jump the boat and join us in the river. And in an album which, oh god, is heartbreaking, that is a moment of, I can't call it joy, but it's so overwhelming emotionally.
It's tragedy. I'd describe it as tragedy. I mean, I cried. So yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's the perfect end to the story of the album, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I can only agree. Well, it was my number one pick as well as yours.
Yeah.
So
I mean, like,
so yeah,
that I say it was hard to pick. That was always going to be my number one.
Yeah. Ah. So
right. So do you want to go on to? No, let's take us another slight detour before we go on to best albums.
Yeah.
Now that I've just read that out, I think we should talk about the best lyrics.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. So one of this is going to be another reward actually, because we'll go through our runners up. My first runner up is Cupcake for having some of the most fire flows on any rap album this year with Eden. Her lyrical content is somewhat saucy, shall I say? Risque, which I'll be honest isn't always my cup of tea. But she has a way to make it always entertaining this album.
Fat cat, Garfield.
But then, yeah, it had so many highlights that I ended up being sold on it. So I'm definitely going to have to give it to Cupcake for that.
Well, I'm going to provide a counterpoint to that one and say Jean Grey for consistently providing the best rap flows and lyrics of the year to my mind, and always being the high point on every track she's on Everything Is Fine. I just think she's got such a unique flow from a female rapper, and her use of the English lexicon is outstanding. The references she's able to pull out. It's the only other artist I can think that she's like is Milo. She's got a very similar style to him, I think.
Another runner-up that I put forward for best lyrics was Necrogoblicon. Because I've mentioned this a couple of times that I think their lyrics, and the more I think about it and the more I listen to the album, the more I'm sure that I'm right about this, is that despite the lyrics, they very much create this very whimsical world full of goblins and other mythical creatures, and it's all very metal and all that kind of stuff. But all of the songs and the way goblins operate within the album does double as an allegory for mental health issues as well, which I think the way it's done comedically but very cleverly at the same time as well, that I just ended up being incredibly impressed by it. And
I remember reading out my favourite funniest line on the album, and then you going, actually, and now every time I listen to it I'm like, I shouldn't laugh at this, it's sad. I think
that's the thing though, you can laugh at it but you can also be sad at it at the same time, and I think that's part of the magic of the album for me. So yeah, I thought the lyrics on that one were great.
A final runner-up is Milo Dunn again, for creating an album where the lack of instrumentation, it's him and his guitar and occasionally an egg shaker. It meant that the lyrics had to be excellent as they're one of the focal points, and I think he really pulls it off, creating some of the most honest and emotional lines of the year. But the winner, if you hadn't guessed, Typhoon, for beautiful and heart-wrenching imagery throughout the album offerings. I've picked some favourite lyrics.
Go ahead.
From the song Rorschach, eyes on the screen, we have all the information now, but what does it mean? Reasons a tease. Drank up all that hemlock, here I am just reading the leaves, and left wondering, what happened to the life we lost that got lost in the living? And all this fiction makes me nervous. Turns out it was blood spilled on the canvas we admired, just like some Rorschach painting. I know that that's one of your favourites on the album. It's
fantastic.
Yeah. Also got from the song Algernon. I say enough is enough. You have found me out. You have called my bluff. I don't know anything about this stuff. I'm just tired and I'm waiting for my wife to pick me up. A woman slouched in her chair disrupts the silence to say, the part of you that I love is still in there, even if it doesn't know my name. That is a bawl your eyes out moment, if ever I heard one. Oh, God, that is heart-wrenching. Then, from the song Chiaroscuro, which is a brilliant word, I just want to say now. They say nothing survives, but in the case we do, I'm afraid of my posthumous state. I don't know if karmic residue is something you'd even recognise, so here's what I'm going to do. Take some time to erase myself, and then whatever's left, I'll leave with you. I'll bury it in you. I just need some time to breathe after listening to some of these, because the way he delivers it as well, it's so poignant, and there's no messing about on this album at all. And then the final one I already read out from Sleep, and I'm not going to read it again, but the bit where he walks into the afterlife, the after party, and is greeted by all these faces.
Oh, it makes me cry. Oh dear. So
as I'm sure you can probably guess, I will be coming back to talk about these a little bit more, because we're going to go into our picks of best albums of the year now.
Yes, definitely. Shall I go first, or do you want to go
first? You go first, Joe.
Yeah. Okay, so my number... I'm actually going to last minute switch my 5th and 4th place around.
Oh my, Joe. Oh, wow. This is
very disorganised of me. My 5th place is going to go to L'Intensité Sécurée with their album Number 5, which ironically isn't a fan favourite. Not many people liked this as much as their other work this year, but having listened to the rest of their discography, I do think Number 5 is my favourite, just because it combines so perfectly the abrasive post-hardcore bits with the pop sensibilities as well. At times it even feels like a dance album as well, with just how upbeat and how the riffs work so well together. It's got several of my favourite riffs of the year throughout the album, but I'll mention my absolute favourite, which is the opening riff in Die Meets Hard. I do have a soft spot for when chromatic riffs are used really inventively, and so when it goes into that I'm just like, yes, I am moving along to that track so much. I just think it's a fantastic time.
Well, I have a soft spot for the film Die Hard, so that was my favourite song on the album.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic album. In the interest of time, I will stop there. So yeah.
I've got I don't want to cheat, but I couldn't pick between my two 5th place choices. But luckily one of them is your 3rd place choice, so I'm going to let you talk about that when it comes. So my 5th place choice is Milo Dunn with Incongruity. I'd like to just reiterate the combination of amazing guitar playing and singing at the same time. I want to know how he does that, especially with the harmonic picking. I can't do that by itself as well as he does. I think he always manages to capture the correct emotion to fit every song, like from uncertainty on Shedding Stability to acceptance on The Reason I'm Grateful to complete resentment on The Puppeteer, and his vocal stylings always match, and you can just feel what he's singing. You don't need to go too much into the lyrics to know the emotion he's trying to convey. It's an incredibly personal album, and I just like to thank him for giving it to us.
Thank you, Milo. Yes, so moving on, my number 4 pick, no surprise to anyone, is going to be Haru Toshiro by Haru Nemuri. We've already sung her praises. Sakai Watarikai Shiteo Kure Baby. Like I said previously, she has a unique voice in J-pop today with her flurried spoken word flows. She's got a great knack for hooks, for layering her music. She combines noise, J-pop, electronic elements to a T. All of the tracks do what they want to do with great poignancy, but the lyrics are just what sold me on the depth of this record as well. This fight against nihilism and to find meaning is present throughout so many of the tracks, and it works so well with the instrumentation as well. Like the second track, Narashta, has this amazing, nearly one of my favourite moments of the year, climax, where she just goes distortion, 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 and the guitars just work themselves up into such a climax as this. Well, she uses distortion as a metaphor for meaninglessness within the lyrics, and it's just fantastic. And there are so many highlights on this album. How could it not be my number 4?
I'd just like to mention that it's very rare that an album has me from the get-go, but the opening with "Make More Noise of You," I was pretty sold from the very beginning. My fourth favourite album of the year is Daughters with "You Won't Get What You Want," which we've already talked about a bit. Like I said, it's quite simply the scariest album I've ever listened to in my life. We've mentioned the use of dissonance throughout, which is just amazing. And the lyrics are delivered with such ferocity that you can't help but pay attention. And when you do, you realise just how potent some of them are, reflecting on so many different themes. The one that gets me the most is on the track "Daughter," talking about suicide and oh wow.
Yeah.
And also the album, it's incredibly well paced. It's long enough to provide all the thrills you could possibly want without being so long that you have nightmares. And the final point I want to make is that the production on the album is absolutely superb. To make an album sound so heavy even when it isn't, there's just always this brooding feeling to it, this sort of uneasiness that just surrounds the entire record, and I'm completely in awe.
Yeah, it's a fantastic record. You can consider it my unofficial 6th place, really. I think it is a fantastic record. Moving on, we have my 3rd place and Nick's kind of joint 5th, 6th place record, which is Welcome to Bonkers by Necrogoblikon. Again, we have talked about this album a couple of times already.
So much.
I've already gushed about it so much. I gushed about it when we reviewed it, but to me, it was such a breath of fresh air. I think for me, metal as a whole can be a bit difficult because there are so many bands that do sound the same that sometimes they need a quirk to distinguish them. And I think they make the absolute most of Goblin as a theme, as a band on this album, through the lyrics.
That's such a great sentence. They make so much of Goblin as a theme. I love it.
But they do through the lyrics, through the vocal delivery, through the instrumentation. There's a lot of kind of medievally kind of harpsichord, that kind of instrumentation. But then you've also got synths, and it's a bit of a rave sometimes as well. And there's so much diversity. But when it wants to be brutal, it can be brutal.
Oh, yeah. The performance on the Skin Thief, the drumming
Thief.
On the Skin Thief. Wow.
Bloody intense. But then when it wants to pop out the magic spider, like.
And then you've got, Killing Time and Space, which opens with that amazing banjo riff, and then the sound of a shotgun going into the verse.
It's bonkers. It's a great time. Like I've already mentioned, the lyrics are fantastic. They both create an incredible world as well as being quite poignant. I think it's a fantastic album. I'm very happy to put it as my 3rd place.
My 3rd place is another one that we've already talked about a bit. It is John Hopkins with his album Singularity. And I mean, we've talked about this a fair amount. It's very engaging IDM. It does require time to put sort of aside, but I think it's something I didn't mention before is the brilliant use of negative space in the album, where the music is as much about what isn't there as what is. And that fits around as well the fact that, I mean, it starts from the very, very first track on the album where it starts with this sort of drone and then splits out. And you'll often start with a very simple idea and then just build into these sonic tapestries, which is so admirable.
Yeah.
Just it's like a tree growing from a seed, and all the
It's a good
branches are
metaphor,
just
yeah.
the different. But it does sound so organic as an album. I remember when we did our review, you said, I think a lot of this album takes place underwater.
Yeah, it does give me that feeling. It feels like that there's a lot of sonar, radar, and it feels like you're picking up on more things as you get closer to more things. If that makes any sense. So yeah, to me it's an unofficial joint sixth place on my list. I think it's a fantastic album as well.
Let's talk about your number 2 place.
Yes, my number 2 pick is Riddles by Ed Schrader's Music Beat. And so this is actually the album I have listened to the most this year, which doesn't surprise me at all.
I think the greatest compliment that you can give it is the fact that it's vaguely a punk album.
Yeah. Well,
Joe doesn't like punk music.
Well, this is something I was thinking about, because I was also thinking there hasn't really been that much what I was called genuinely experimental music released this year. But then I started thinking about this album more, and how there isn't really any other album, or at least that I can think of, that I've heard of, that has this punk stylings. They're punk timbres. You know, Ed Schrader is a punk vocalist. The bassist is very much a punk bassist. They're paired with Dan Deacon, an electronic artist.
I do like Dan Deacon.
Yeah, but he comes from electronica, but he's being put in charge of arrangements, and you get these pieces of music which are like post-punk, but then arranged like electronica. And to me, they're so unique and interesting. Like the opening track, Dunce, has this chopped up vocals, and the layerings on Seagull, and even though what's the fourth track called? I didn't write it down. Dizzy Devil. Dizzy Devil is so intense. I mean, there isn't really any electronica in that track, but the way it's layered, there are so many polyrhythms and guitars cascading. It's so intense, and it's only really an electronica artist that I can think would have put all those layerings together in such an intense way. And it's a really unique piece of music. And kind of throughout the album, you've got a lot of diversity as well, from the hard hitters like Rust and like Dizzy Devil. You've got these softer tracks as well. I already mentioned Tom in my favourite tracks of the year, and Riddles. It's a diverse album. It's a unique album in my opinion, and pretty much like nearly every single song is just incredibly engaging to me. So yeah, that's my number 2 pick.
So for my number 2 pick, we're into the 9 out of 10s now. Only had 2 albums this year that made the 9 out of 10 mark. And the first one is Car Seat Headrest with Twin Fantasy. And I did spend quite a long time deciding which one to put first or second on this list. And Twin Fantasy is technically a 2011 release, but it was completely re-recorded, and large bits of it were messed around with and made to sound different. So I'm considering it a new album enough that I can include it on this list. And I think it's a complete improvement in every way from the 2011 Mirror to Mirror version. When it was National Record Store Day, early 2018, I went to see what was there, and I found a vinyl copy of the 2011 version. I'd heard the 2018 version before, and I went and listened to it, and was surprised just by how different and good it still sounded. But it was clear that he didn't have the same resources he has now. So the fact that he can use these resources to create what he really wanted, I guess, is great, because Will Toledo has got such an eye for detail and ambition to match the themes of youthfulness, anxiety, sexual confusion, love, etc. He brings them through in the lyrics in such witty ways. With the ambition of the album, there are a couple of tracks on this album which are long, 12 minutes, 16 minutes, and I don't think either of them feel out of place on what is sort of a glorified garage rock album. They're both creative enough to hold my interest, and varied enough throughout, along with some of the other tracks on the album. I mean, you go from the energetic and joyous Bodies, which I already mentioned was my song of the year, to the really trippy and gloomy High to Death. The fact that you can have those 2 songs on the same album is astounding to me. There's too much to talk about with this album, because the more I listen to it, the more I notice from it, because it's a long listen, it's a sprawling listen, there's so much crammed into it. Like, I was listening to one of my favourite tracks, Nervous Young Inhumans, and I didn't realise that part of the chorus is not stolen, but very obviously taken from Anna Enger by They Might Be Giants, which I just found to be genius. There's not much more to say on this album except go and listen to it.
So moving on to our number one picks then, our cream of the crop, our number one albums of the year. Mine is, drumroll please, it is Dead Magic by Anna von Housewolf. Now this album, it might not be as experimental as Ed Schrader's Music Beat, it might not be as cleverly written as Necrogoblicon, but
it's got organs in it.
It's got organs in it. Church organs, and she's an organist, and the production is incredible, and from start to finish I'm completely engaged, and she has this way of making you feel every single emotion she wants to make you feel, and the album has this kind of abstract story to it as well about release. It's like a very slow release of pent-up aggression, which starts with the opening track as it builds up so much atmosphere, and then you've got the peak of Ugly and Vengeful, which is just it's both divine and devilish in equal measures before it allows the release to flow out in the final two tracks. It's just an amazing listen. This is a thorough start to finish listen where every single moment I am entertained, I am engaged, and I am enthralled. Her arrangements, like I said, they're kind of neoclassical, kind of dark wave. It's very gloomy, it's very gothic, it's dripping in atmosphere. It's a fantastic album. Please go listen to it.
I'll say that moment on Ugly and Vengeful I find every bit as unnerving as any moment on Daughter's new album.
Yeah, and it's so striking as well when it comes in.
It's so unexpected. I mean, it's an organ, so you expect it, but not in that way.
I know, it's so jarring, and it sends up the shivers down your spine, and it's
Well, we've come to the final category of this podcast, the final pick, which is my first place for album of the year, and I'm sure you've all worked out by now. It's Offerings by Typhoon, which when we reviewed it, I said this is probably going to be my album of the year, which is annoying because now I have to hold it as the benchmark for good albums this year, and all other albums will be judged against it. So it's an album, and I find more to admire about it each time I hear it. The concept of the album not only highlights the terror that is a fading memory, but it also somehow manages to reaffirm the importance of how we choose our paths in life. And it would be impossible to have an album like this with such a bold concept work without the incredible lyricism, which we've already highlighted, the amazing way it is sung, and the way it fits around the composition, which there's so much subtlety to the songs. There's so many moments of unexpected joy throughout, which I can only sort of interpret as these little wisps of memory just blinking out of existence. The album has actually I think it's helped to prepare me for the eventual unstoppable and inevitable sort of decay that comes with existence. I mean, especially with my granddad, who, I mean, it's quite clearly starting to happen to, and I can only listen to this album and think about the wonderful life so many people have led, and the people that I'm sure they will have affected, and how that life won't impact that one person anymore, but will still have made such a difference to the world.
You're making me cry again, Nick.
And to think I didn't like this album the first time I listened to it, because I loved their previous release, White Lighter. I thought it was one of the most interesting indie rock albums I've ever heard. It was such fantastic composition, and I thought that this one was kind of restrained compared to that, but it all makes sense to me. And on that downer, this is the end of the podcast, but it is not the end of our picks for the year, because next week we're going to be releasing our worst picks of the year. Our
worst of, and some funny moments as well. Oh, I look forward to it.
Yeah,
we'll give James some food.
Yeah,
for the gulag.
Some food lag. So Yeah, that will come out next week, hopefully. We are going to ensure it comes out because we need something to tide you over until the first actual podcast of 2019, where we'll go back to reviewing albums and disagreeing with each other and throwing things in the gulag. I believe we've got a discussion lined up.
Yes.
Which we haven't done before, have we? I don't think. So that will be fun. We've got lots of cool things planned this year. So I hope that you will stay with us through 2019.
Yes,
but for now, I've been Nick.
I've been Joe.
This has been F Sharp, A Sharp Revisited.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. F Sharp, A Sharp Revisited.